Hello everyone, welcome back to Learnosity's webinar series. Thanks for joining us for our third long-term support webinar of 2021. For any viewers unfamiliar with our long-term support releases, they are our strong, complete and stable versions of all our APIs. And 3 times a year, we release these production-ready versions of our APIs, which are then supported for 2 years. My name is Michael Sharman. I'm the Senior Vice President of Product at Learnosity, and I'm based out of our Sydney office. Just some quick housekeeping notes to go over first. This is a pre-recorded webinar that viewers can access on demand via the Learnosity YouTube channel. But questions are still very much welcome. If you'd like to ask about anything covered in this webinar, customers can log a ticket through our support portal at help.learnosity.com. But if you're not a customer, you can always email your questions to marketing@learnosity.com. And a member of the team will respond to all and any of your questions via email shortly after the webinar. Okay, so in today's webinar, we'll be looking at all the enhancements and the new capabilities from our latest long-term support release, which is 2021.3.LTS. The Learnosity assessment engine powers assessment excellence for modern learning platforms. We're used by more than 130 industry-leading companies around the world, and Learnosity allows these customers to easily embed best-in-class assessment capabilities into their platforms and continually innovate to meet evolving market demands. With each of our major releases, we continuously innovate to keep our assessment engine at the cutting edge. And in our latest release, we've enhanced our question types STEM capabilities, we've boosted efficiency and accessibility for authors, and delivered faster loading speeds for questions. So first, let's just briefly run through which features we released on the 14th of October across assessment, authoring, accessibility, and performance and stability. Let's take a look. In assessment, we've extended our essay questions for coders. We've improved the flexibility of our sections in several ways. We'll take a look at that. And we've made some enhancements to dynamic content. In authoring, we've optimized our item search. We've made activity configuration easier and faster. We've enabled you to keep activities consistent with reusable player templates. And we've made activity editing within the Author API more powerful. Also in accessibility, we released more accessible colors for authors using our question editor. And in performance and stability, we've optimized our assessment engine for faster question processing on the server side. Okay, firstly, let's give you a closer look at our assessment release. This new feature we've released allows you to reach more learners. Software programming and engineering learners can now enter code when submitting essay responses in 2 different ways, either formatted in line with the body text or as a discrete code block. Let's take a look at a demonstration. In this example, we're looking at an essay question type. Now, the author has configured this to use the new code inline option and the code editor option. The learner is being asked to write a function that takes 2 arguments, adds those arguments and then returns the result. This is something that you might see in a more basic computer science course. Now, if I simulate a learner response there, I can add some text, and then what I might do is add a code editor, and I can write my answer. I'll just paste it from my clipboard for the sake of this demonstration. But what we can see here, I can inline format my code. And of course I can do editors as well, and I can do multiple editors. We have monospace fonts. You can tab as you would expect. Very handy when you are learning and writing being assessed on anything to do with computer science. It could be writing programming languages, it could be HTML, it could be writing CSS. Anything where you need to do a code sample, you can now do in our rich text essay question type. We've also made a series of improvements to our popular sections feature, increasing flexibility to limits you can impose within each section, different time values you can have between sections, different sorts of item count parameters, as well as shuffling within sections, as well as at the global level. Let's take a quick look. In this fictional example, we have 3 sections. There are 8 items in total, but spread across 3 sections. Section 1 has 2 items, Section 2 has 3 items, Section 3 has 3 items. Now, some of the enhancement we've made are the item count can be representing the full number of items in the test, in this case 1 of 8, 2 of 8, or you can have it read 1 of 2, 2 of 2. So each section can be standalone, or it can represent one within the entire test. Now, in this example, there's no timer, no pause button. This is an untimed section. An example might be if you want learners to have a practice section just to get used to the sorts of questions that are going to be asked, the sorts of question types, and you don't want to time them for that. Then, once you move across to the next section, a timer will be introduced. This is just 1 minute for this example, but this can be a hard limit type where the learner must progress once the time has expired. You'll also note we have the calculator in the vertical toolbar, and then I've moved to section 3, the calculator has been removed. That was there before originally, but we've made it a little bit easier to override the configuration within these sections. The final thing that you can open up here is the ability to navigate backwards. You can see I'm on section 3, which is the last 3 items in this session, but I can navigate backwards to section 2 and then even back to section 1. That's optional. You have the power to allow students whether they can have a linear progression through the test or they can travel backwards. For dynamic content, we've added the ability to choose a specific row from the dynamic content data table that's returned to the learner. Also, when choosing dynamic delivery, we now randomize at the item level instead of just at the session level. Let's have a quick look at this. In this example, we are using dynamic content. What this means is we have a CSV or a data table attached with the item behind the scenes that was entered during authoring. It represents a random row that will be returned to the learner every time they load the item. In this instance, the learner is being asked to add 1 plus 8. Every time I refresh this item, I will always get that row 1 plus 8. Let me refresh. 1 plus 8, and again. By changing a simple configuration option, we now re-enable dynamic content. Let me now refresh. You can see a different random row, a dynamic row, is being returned. We refresh again and again. This can be useful if you want to serve the same item in different situations. You might want to serve completely randomized data during practice assignments or homework assignments, but fix the row so that all students will see the same variables during a more important quiz or assessment that you're delivering to your class. Next up, let's take a look at our new authoring features. We've rebuilt our item search to ensure lightning fast performance for users as long as you're on 2020.1.LTS and upward. This upgrade relieves some pressure on our item bank search, which was caused by some enormous growth in content that we've seen in the past year or more. We've spent a lot of time recently on our activity editor, part of our Author API. Content creators can now quickly and easily adjust activity settings within the user interface, which includes options like autosave or idle timeout warnings. Let's take a quick look. Here we are in the activity editor. We have 5 items we've attached to this activity, and now we can go to the player tab and you'll see a lot more options that you didn't have previously. We have time-based settings, player-based settings, text-based settings, and scoring settings. A lot of the options that weren't there before are now available, and we'll also talk soon about the new player template builder. Another feature that we've built inside the activity editor are player templates. This is the assessment player we're talking about. So content administrators can now build these player templates, which content creators can use as the basis for activities. This helps maintain a consistent experience for both authors and learners. Let's take a quick look. Here we are inside the activity editor. We have 5 items as we saw before. As a content creator, if I move to the player tab, we can set configuration options that you would set or see for the assessment player. This is what the learner is going to see and experience while taking a test. Now, we have 3 default options out of the box, 3 region presets. The first one is standard. If I preview this test, you'll see a familiar user interface. Table of contents on the right, vertical toolbar, timer up the top right, and the pause button. However, you can now, via the user interface, create your own player template. As we toggle this on, we can see everything we had here. Now, for example, if you didn't want a timer, you could remove that. If you didn't want the pause button, you could remove that. You can give it a name. Save. Now you can see this has appeared here. Once I go to preview, I can see the pause button has been removed and the timer has been removed. Now, of course, you can do lots of things in here. If I go back in to edit that, the palette on the left allows you to drag options in anywhere you see fit. You can bring a ruler in if you want to bring a ruler in, and you can choose to put it in the right area, in the top area, as an example. Hopefully you can appreciate the power of this. There's an enormous amount of flexibility in our assessment player, and we've started to open this up more easily for authors to be able to take control. For those authors creating activities inside our new author site, your experience just got more powerful. This upgrade includes improved navigation between activities. You can include resource menu options, as well as have the ability to tag and change the layout for individual items within the activity. Let's take a look. We're now in the Learnosity author site, looking at the activities list view. You might have a scenario where you need to review several activities. Maybe you've run a search and you need to check them all or do some quick edits. As I enter an activity, you can now toggle to the next activity in the list from within these arrows, previous and next, instead of having to go back to the list view. That's a time saver. Also, from within the activity editor, these items, or this one item in this case, has been attached to the activity. I can click into this and choose to edit as we could before, but now you can also modify the tags or change the layout or any of the other details on the item, all from within your activity editor. Almost all of our teams, almost every sprint, we focus on accessibility features. It is an absolute priority, just like scale, just like performance at Learnosity. To create excellent assessments, you have to factor in accessibility, and not just for learners, but for the creators of assessment content too. The colors available within an authoring interface directly impacts how easily authors can read or perceive content. So we've just optimized color contrast within the widget editing experience for text, backgrounds, and buttons. And there's more to come. Finally, a quick one on performance and stability. Now, we are committed to continuously making our system more powerful and more stable. In the last 12 months, the Items API response time from the server has gotten 35% faster, from around 95th percentile 102 milliseconds to 66 milliseconds. This might seem small, but over the course of all your requests at scale, this makes a big deal. And this leap forward enables faster question processing for millions of learners. Again, just like with accessibility, there's more to come next release. Keep an eye out. And that concludes our general overview for the third and final long-term support release of the year, 2021.3.LTS. As we always mention, each release is the result of 4 months of hard work across all the development teams, the design teams, the product teams. This is our efforts to constantly solve problems for our customers. We're already working, of course you would expect, on our next long-term support release, which is 2022.1.LTS, and this will be available in February next year. Stay tuned for even more features then. Of course, if you have any questions about anything covered today, we're happy to answer them for you. Customers can log a support ticket at help.learnosity.com, and if you're not a customer, please email marketing@learnosity.com and we'll respond to all your questions as soon as possible. Thanks for watching again, and we're looking forward to hearing from you.